it might feel like we've been talking about this a lot recently. And if you haven't listened to my most recent or watched my most recent video or listened to the last podcast episode, go back to these because we are talking a bit about time at the moment. And in the last video episode, we looked at the leaks of our time, where we are leaking time, where we might think we are wasting time, but where we're actually leaking time. And I talked in that video about something called time ownership, and that is what I want to get into today. We never feel like we have enough time. And listen, if you've ever said, there's too much to do, if I just had more time, things would feel easier, I can't keep up, I'm just rushing from the moment I wake up, then this video is going to help you because you are not alone. I have been there. I know every one of my clients has been there. And today I want to show you that time is not your problem. Pressure is your problem. And if you go back to the last video and the last episode, you will be able to see how pressure feeds into the leaks. But once you understand that pressure is the issue, then your entire day, your energy, your capacity, your patience, your presence, your productivity, all of these things are going to start to change. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And then I'm also going to walk you through my time ownership ladder. This is a framework I teach inside my group coaching program, Resilient. It is one of the things that creates the fastest transformation for women inside. And you'll see why just now. But let's get into it so we can get onto that. So what I want to start with is one thing that most women do not realize. And that is that you do not feel time poor because you have too much to do. If you have been following me for a while, you will have heard me go on and on about this. You feel time poor because your nervous system is under too much pressure. Time scarcity is a state. It's not a schedule management issue. So you can have an identical calendar on 2 different days, and on one day you can feel frantic and reactive and behind, and on another day you can feel focused, you can feel in flow, you can feel like I've got this. Why does this happen? This is exactly because the thing that steals your time is not that to-do list, it is your state of being. When your nervous system is in a state of survival mode, your attention is very scattered. Your ability to make decisions kind of collapses. You lose capacity, you lose energy and the ability to focus. You rush through things, you multitask, everything feels urgent. You end up absolutely exhausted without actually accomplishing much. And so traditional time management does not work for us because it does not fix the pressure problem. What is the thing that fixes the pressure problem? It is resilience. It is resilience to the challenges around us. It is the capacity to manage ourselves in response to the things that are going on around us. So before we get into the time ownership ladder that helps to build that resilience, I want to reframe something. You do not own your time by trying to control the clock. We cannot change anything by trying to control the things outside of ourselves. You own your time by controlling your attention. The moment you give away your attention, so maybe you're giving away your attention to other people's expectations or to your guilt or to the rules, the identity rules that are pumping through your brain, or to the feeling of overwhelm, or to the mental load, to all this pressure, then your time is going to disappear. And it doesn't kind of just vanish. It doesn't run through your fingers. It kind of gets taken hostage by the stress response that you have to all of those things that I've just talked about. Guilt, overwhelm, the mental load. But when you take back ownership of your attention, then time kind of opens up again. It expands. Even if your schedule doesn't change, your to-do list doesn't change, time expands. So this is the foundation for everything else. So we're going to get into the framework now. This is gold because it explains very simply why so many working mums feel like they are constantly running behind. And the ladder has 3 rungs to it. The bottom rung of this ladder, I hope you can see me, is what I call reaction mode. We all know this mode very well. This is where most of us spend our days. So in reaction mode, you are putting out fires. You are jumping between tasks. You are responding to things instead of choosing systematically. You are saying yes very quickly and multitasking so that you can get through everything. You're rushing. You're living in that fight or flight survival mode, and then constantly apologizing for the fact that you haven't got to it, or I will get there, I haven't forgotten. It's exhausting. So this reaction mode, this bottom rung of the ladder, feels like your day is running you and not the other way around. So if you already wake up, if you wake up and you are already tense, like, oh, I've got to fight this day, or you collapse into bed at night feeling like nothing has moved forward, then this is reaction mode that you've been living your day in. And it's not your fault. Remember, going back to the fact that it is our state that drives how we respond to things. So this level is driven by that pressure, by that self-doubt, by a belief, I have to get everything right, I've got to be good, I've got to be capable, I've got to be valuable. And we don't need a new planner here. We need to build our resilience that then builds our capacity. And so when you've built your capacity, that's where rung 2 of the ladder comes in. And this is what I call, again, just checking you can see me, responsibility mode. And I've gone to out of capitals so I can fit what I'm writing in. Responsibility mode, where you co-own your time, for want of a better word. So you've gone up the ladder, and at this level you're starting to be a little bit more aware of things. So maybe you're noticing, oh, I don't actually have to say yes to everything, or okay, not everything is urgent. Some things can maybe wait, some things can be delegated, or some things can even be deleted. And so you're starting to take a bit more responsibility, starting to really be able to take some control of or some ownership of your time. You're still inconsistent though. So something has shifted, and yet you find yourself falling back into old patterns. So when we are at this point, it's a bit of a relief. We're not fully drowning anymore. We're aware that something is not working, and there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be. We don't want to be burnt out anymore. We don't want to be in reaction mode, but we're just not quite sure how to get to real stability. So responsibility mode is kind of like the uncomfortable middle, where you're not stuck anymore, but you're not yet fully steady and certain. And in here, we really can start seeing how identity-led resilience can start to make a huge difference. And this is how we then move up into the 3rd rung of the ladder. This is kind of like the promised land. This is up here, ownership mode. I'm going to go back to capitals because this is really important. This is where we want to all get this 3rd rung of the ladder. This is where the women that I work through inside Resilient reach. And when you get to this point, oh my gosh, it transforms everything. Because here, in this mode, you are leading yourself, which means you are no longer chasing time, rushing through things. You're actually focusing deeply and finishing things. You are productive at work. You are present with your children at the end of the day. You are no longer driven with guilt. You are able to make decisions, set boundaries without all the chaos in your head. And you stop rushing through life. You actually, when you are owning your time, start living your life. And this idea of time as a thief is no longer the reality. It kind of feels like you are able to choose. And this is where ease becomes your baseline. Even when life is full, even when it's demanding, you just feel so much more ease, and everything, funnily enough, starts to feel so much easier. So how do we get there? So in Resilient, I teach a very particular order of transformation from this reaction mode to ownership mode. Again, not through time management, but through identity and resilience. And there are 3 skills that the women who shift fastest from reaction to ownership mode build. And I just want to run you through those 3 skills. The first of these is another framework that I offer in the program called the 3-zone focus framework, which is all around owning your attention. Remember, you cannot own your time if you do not own your attention. So in this framework, I help you to identify these 3 zones. Picture 3 concentric circles, and in the middle, you've got the essential zone. This is what really matters, what actually matters, not what you think matters. And then just outside that, you've got the maintenance zone. These are the things that have to get done: cooking the supper, doing the shopping, the things that support your life, but we systematize and delegate if possible. And then, the let go zone on the outside is the zone that we put things in that we can either choose to delete, delegate, or delay. These are the things that are draining you with no return on them. Things that you're doing because you think you have to, or you think you should, or you've been stuffing into the essential zone, but actually they can be let go of, even if it's just for a little while. Most of the pressure that you feel comes from the let go zone, from the things that you are shoving into the essential zone, not actually from your real priorities in that essential zone. And when you know what matters to you, not what your mummy thinks or what Instagram thinks or what your boss thinks or what your husband thinks or your best friend, when you know what matters to you, then you can take ownership of your time so much more easily because you can focus your attention. The second skill is what I call everyday ease. So now you've owned your attention. This is now about owning your state. So you cannot own time if you don't own your nervous system. Again, there's an episode about your nervous system being your leadership advantage. So go and listen to that one as well. Everyday ease teaches you how to shift out of that survival mode, out of that fight or flight, so that you can stop reacting. You can stop sticking down here in reaction mode and start moving up into ownership mode. You can create a kind of place of internal calm even when life on the outside is chaotic. And it takes the pressure off your system so that you can think clearly again. And this is when you stop shouting. You stop rushing, you stop snapping and spiraling, and you're able to start regulating. The measurables on this are huge. Your home feels lighter. Your children feel calmer. You can think clearly for the first time in years. Your manager says to you, gosh, this is the best work I've ever seen you do. This is what happens when you take ownership of your nervous system. And then the third tool or the third skill that I teach is through my core identity blueprint, where you own your decisions. Now, this is a big one. You cannot own your time if the wrong identity is running the show. So if the good girl or the achiever or the people pleaser or the overfunctioner or the capable one or the responsible one, if they are making your decisions, you will always feel behind, rushed, guilty, trying to prove, always performing. They love it when you're performing. When you shift into your core identity, into your A-grade identity, the version of you who is clear and grounded and certain and led by your values, you stop leaking time because you make a decision and you just move on. And you are able to set boundaries. You choose a pace that works for you and intentionality without guilt. And you are able to be so much more present. You have so much more energy. And again, time expands because you're not fighting yourself. Oh, that was a lot. And I just want to bring it home by sharing a story of a client that I had who, when she joined me in Resilience, she said, every year I buy a new planner and I just decide this year I'm going to be more organized, and I color code it and I try new systems, and every year I find myself still feeling behind. And within 6 weeks, not because she got a new planner, but because she changed, this client said to me, I finally feel like I've caught up with my own life. And she wasn't reacting anymore. She wasn't in reaction mode. She wasn't performing or proving herself. She had stepped up the ladder and she was moving into ownership mode. And that is what happens when you build your resilience from the inside out, when you realize that it is you that has the capacity to change what is happening outside of you, rather than trying to change what's happening outside of you in order to change you. So I want to invite you to think about where you are on this ladder. Am I on rung 1 in reaction mode, where time owns you, you're overwhelmed, you're rushed, you're running on adrenaline, you're just reacting to things? Or are you on the second rung? Are you in responsibility mode, where you're starting to become aware of, actually, I can do things a little bit differently. You're learning to pause, you're learning to slow down, you're learning to choose every now and again, but it's still inconsistent. You still slip back into old patterns. Or are you green? Yes, on the green rung, you are in ownership mode, you are leading your time, you are steady, you are clear, you're not ruled by pressure, and you feel on top of things all the time. Just think about the rung that you are on with absolutely no judgment. Where are you today? And then think about, where do I want to be? What rung do I want to be sitting on? What would make my life flow? Because you don't need more hours in your day. You just need less pressure and a better identity and more trust in yourself, in who you are, in that certain core identity. And you are not meant to do this alone, or you don't have to do this alone. You can give it a try. But if you are tired of rushing, if you're tired of feeling behind and kind of feeling like life is happening to you, I would love to invite you to think about joining us in Resilient. It is a 6-month group coaching program. We don't just talk about time. We rebuild in this program your internal world so that you can lead every day, not just the days that you are feeling good on. Well, you can feel good on every day so that you lead that day with clarity. You are emotionally steady. You trust yourself. You show up as the woman you want to be every day, at work, at home. Things feel peaceful at home. You feel powerful at work. And time finally feels like it's something that you can grab a hold of. You might even have a little bit, or maybe even a lot, for yourself. If you want to learn more about Resilient, there is a link in the show notes, or get in touch with me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. I love to have conversations around how I can support you in this process. Your time is too precious to be lived in reaction mode. So let's help you to lead it in ownership mode.